Hello, everyone. Welcome to Agape Church Online, and thank you for joining us again. Today, we are going to be talking about something very important and very fundamental in Christian life. Today, we're going to be talking about faith. And with this sermon, we are going to discover at least two things that faith leads us to do. And the question for to us for today is, how is my faith? How is my faith? But first of all, what is faith? Well, according to the Bible, the book of Hebrews describes it like this. Now, faith, verse 1, faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. I'm going to continue reading the next verses. This is what the ancients were commended for. By faith, we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible. Verse 7. By faith, Noah, when warned about things not yet seen, in holy fear built an ark to save his family. By faith, he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness that is in keeping with faith. By faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he will later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. By faith, he made his home in the promised land like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him of the same promise. For he was looking forward to the city with foundations, whose architect and builder is God. And by faith, even Sarah, who was past childbearing age, was enabled to bear children because she considered him faithful who had made the promise. And so from this one man, as he as good as dead, came descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as countless as the sand on the seashore. Verse 30. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell after the army had marched around them for 7 days. So, what is faith? According to this passage, faith is the confidence in what we hope for and the assurance about what we do not see. And I have to ask, how can anyone be sure that what they're waiting will happen? How can anyone be convinced to see, to experience what doesn't even exist? That's faith. And that is crazy as well, right? But this same craziness was lived by Abraham, by Sarah, and by the people of Israel. And let me tell you, if we believe that our life is difficult, wait to see what happened to them. But even with everything they lived, they never stopped having faith. And this is what makes faith so encouraging. When we have faith, we live in a promise. Faith brings confidence to our lives. It convinces us to believe, to wait and believe in God. This is what happened to them. Now, their faith was not a different concept from ours. They didn't put their faith in someone else. Their faith was the same that you and I have. This faith that is born in our hearts by God's grace. Both their faith and ours is the same, simply because it's in God, the one who doesn't change, the one who is the same yesterday, back in those times, today, and forever. So, before I read to the following verses, I invite you to ask yourself, how is my faith? And let this question be in your mind during this message. How is my faith? So in the beginning of this message, we said that today we're going to discover two things that faith leads us to do. And the first one is faith leads us to wait in God. I'm going to read verse 11 and 12 again. And by faith, even Sarah, who was past childbearing age, was enabled to bear children because she considered them faithful who had made the promise. And so from this one man, and he as good as dead, came descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as countless as the sand on the seashore. So Abraham was 75 years old and Sarah was 65. When God promised them to have a great family, they were married, and surely Abraham knew about his wife's disease. She was sterile. He knew that having children was impossible. God had to heal Sarah in order to bear children. But they were very old as well. It was just impossible for this to happen. It was not about waiting. It was just impossible. But you know this story. When Abraham was 100 years and Sarah 90, Isaac was born. How many years had passed? 25 years. So, after 25 years, God finally healed Sarah. After 25 years, God finally gave Abraham and Sarah a son. They waited 25 years. I mean, that is a whole life over there. 25 years. This was the time that they were waiting for the promise to be fulfilled. They wait 25 years for Sarah to be healed out of her condition. And when I read this, I think, how long has it been and your condition has not changed, has not improved? Look at Sarah's condition. She was sterile. And we know that there was no way to heal Sarah unless God healed her. Now, her condition was a physical condition, was a disease without cures. And ours? What is our condition? What is your condition? And something that I discovered is maybe it's a disease, maybe it's a financial situation. I don't know what could be the condition. But something that I discovered is anything we've been waiting for months or even years, anything we are waiting for can be our condition. And in Mexico, we have a saying, la espera desespera, which means he who was waiting ends up losing his patience. I'm going to read again. He who waits ends up losing his patience. Yes, waiting gets you tired. Waiting gets you discouraged. Waiting gets you frustrated simply because while we are waiting, we do not see what we expect. It has not arrived. It is not here. But in the Bible, we find that faith waits. And I want to make a parenthesis in here. This is what I love about the Bible. You know, the Bible tells me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. Now, I know that it is not easy, even if the Bible says it. Waiting is not an easy thing to do. Anyone can get tired of waiting. But look at the example of Abraham and Sarah. Their faith led them to wait 25 years because their faith led them to have the confidence in what they hoped for and the assurance about what they didn't see yet. Now, the second thing that faith leads us is to believe in God. And I'm going to read in verse 30. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell after the army had marched around them for 7 days. And when the Bible says the army, this word, the army, you know that there was no army. it was the people of Israel, the citizens of Israel. Do you remember this story, right? When God said to Joshua, go and tell Israel, go and march for 7 days around Jericho, and I am going to bring down the walls for you to enter and conquer the land. And okay, time out. People from Israel had to believe even when the walls had not fallen yet. And this is difficult to imagine. I mean, they marched the first day and nothing happened. They marched the second day and nothing happened. Third day, fourth day, fifth day, and nothing happened. They finished marching the sixth day and still nothing. And I ask, what would they have done? Would it keep marching? Would it believe in God? I mean, how in the earth the walls fall just by marching around them? It didn't make any sense. I understand. I get it. It didn't make any sense. But suddenly, on the seventh day, while the people were marching, God made those walls to come down. Now, this is the interesting thing about this story. Who, in his 5 cents, would have believed that the walls were going to fall? You know, the only one who heard directly from God that those walls will fall was Joshua, not the people. You see how difficult it was for them to understand, to believe that they will fall? Now, it gets more interesting when you know that other nations have already tried to destroy them. And listen to this. Other nations brought an army with weapons, with specialized people in combat, and they couldn't do it. But we find these people, these crazy people who are trying to turn these walls down by marching around them. It doesn't make any sense, right? You know, they could have marched around for a year and still it was impossible to destroy them. However, Joshua and all Israel believed God. Their faith led them to believe in God. Their faith led them to keep marching, and they kept marching until the seventh day finally arrived and God turned those walls down. You know, in life we will face walls. And maybe right now you have a wall in front of you. And it is hard to believe that God can do something about it. But this is what I discovered in life. When we have a wall in front of us, and it is hard to believe that God is at work. This is when I realize, okay, this is what believing in God is about. Because when everything is fine, when everything is in order, it's easy to believe in God. But when we face walls, it's a different story. However, it is then when it is by faith that we continue to believe in God. This is the most important thing about the walls. Because it is then when we face walls that by faith we continue to walk with God. It is then when by faith we continue, listen to this, we continue to worship God. We continue to raise our hands and to continue singing to God, worshiping God as we go, as we march. So keep believing. Maybe the second day is over, but keep believing. Maybe the third day is over, keep believing. The fourth day, the fifth day has passed. The sixth day maybe has passed. Keep believing, because the seventh day is coming. But this is the best part, or the most important thing about when we face walls in our lives. When we have a wall that is stopping us to continue believing in God, but despite of the wall, we believe in God, we will learn what is to believe in God. Our faith will lead us to continue believing God. Our faith will lead us to have the confidence in what we hope for and the assurance about what we do not see. I want to finish with this. This letter was written to a group of people who had to have faith, to wait, and to believe in God in a world surrounded by persecution. The Hebrews were surrounded by persecutions. And yet, the author of the Hebrews encouraged them to continue having faith. Wow, that is hard. That's difficult. You know, after all these years, we have not lived what they lived. And we are not living it. We don't know what persecution means to us. We don't know persecution. There is nothing persecuting the church right now in this place, at least in this place. And I hope it will happen. But this is the thing. The message is the same. Faith is what leads us to continue waiting. Faith is that leads us to continue believing in God. Because faith is the confidence in what we hope for and the assurance about what we do not see. So I invite you to ask yourself once again, how is my faith? And I invite you to think about this question during this week. How is my faith? God bless you, and see you next week.
Church is wherever you are. Thank you for being part of our Church Online. We want to remind you that our midweek prayer time will be next Wednesday at 7 p.m. via Zoom. Even when we are not meeting in person, our ministry keeps going, so we invite you to continue supporting our church by giving online. We have different ways to give. Just go to agapememorialumc.org/give. You can also text the word give to the phone number on the screen, or you can simply mail it to our address. Thank you for your support.